I think it needs to be extended. I think the businesses are finding it very hard to deal with that significant an increase in such a short time. So I think we need to give the businesses time to get caught up and then bring in an increase when the time is better.
So you're going to redevise what's already happened, or you just mean you're going to stretch that $1 extra out?
I think you can stretch the dollar out more, because I've heard from many business owners that this is really causing them problems, and as a result what we're seeing is people are being laid off or their hours are being lessened. This isn't having the desired effect that the Liberals wanted it to have.
So back to the campaign and doing it for the third time, because we have a lot of people in this room who have worked in campaigns over the years, and they're strategists and grassroots volunteers and so forth. What happens when you say, all right, we get the band back together again? You're calling people from those previous campaigns, you're calling new people. How does that work? You're calling the same donors again? How do you reanimate it?
It's a whole new day. It's a different campaign. I have some people that helped me in the last campaign. I also have new people as well. People that are really good organizers on the ground, people from across the province. We have such a very short time before the vote is going to happen that we want new members to join us. And I welcome anybody that shares our progressive conservative values to come and be part of the team. So it's a combination of different people, different organization. We're ready to win, and not just the leadership, but ready to win government.
So you talk about what's different about the win government now, and now things are more dire than it was before. I just read this great book by Reagan biographer Craig Shirley. It's called Reagan Rising, The Decisive Years, 76 to 80. And that was about Reagan's third time running for the nomination. And of course, the rest is history, and he went on to govern. The book, though, is more about what changed about him in those intervening years, and what made him the leader able to win it at that point, and what has changed about you as a person and a leader and a politician in these 3 years.
Well, I've had the experience. I think that's one of the key things for me and why I'm running in this race. I have had experience both as an MPP for 9 years. I know how Queen's Park works, the committees, question period. I know the people involved. But I've also had a chance in the last 2 years to work in the healthcare sphere. And we have some significant issues in Ontario with healthcare that need to be resolved. I've been working with patients and families and health professionals to talk about some of the gaps in the system and what needs to be closed. So we've got some wonderful provisions in our People's Guarantee about increasing funding for mental health and addictions, for example, setting up more new long-term care beds that the Liberals have failed to do. Those are the things that really, really interest me. Healthcare is the biggest part of our budget. We need somebody who can hit the ground running on that file, and I'm ready to go with that.
How are you changing the way you look at healthcare, having served not as a politician for a decade, but you've served as a public servant, and your job has been to really get in there and look at, I guess some people have problems navigating the system, that sort of stuff, as the patient ombudsman. So how has your view on the top file that you would be managing as Premier have changed throughout your time in that role?
Well, just getting knowledge of the system, I've realized that we're talking right now about building a patient-centered system of healthcare, which we don't have right now. So it's really important that patients and families get involved in planning healthcare and to realize when the government comes forward with policy, it's important to take it to patients and families to say, what do you think about this? Does this make sense to you? Is this good value for you? So we need to be more innovative in the way that we're developing healthcare policies. And we also need to be innovative in terms of healthcare itself, because we've always looked at healthcare as just a consumer of tax dollars. What I think we really need to look at is using healthcare as a job creator. We've got wonderful research being done here in Ontario at our universities and in conjunction with hospitals and other researchers, that we have some wonderful ideas for businesses in healthcare coming forward that aren't getting to the market. So there's a lack of venture capital. What happens is it ends up going to the United States or to England. So I think we really need to start turning our minds to healthcare and the innovation that could come from that and the jobs that we could create there.
Healthcare. I mean, in many senses, healthcare is already quite the job creator. And I look at the Sunshine List and I see all these $200,000, $300,000 jobs, and if they say surgeon, I understand what that means. There are other jobs in healthcare, quite frankly, I don't have a clue what they mean, and they've got the $300,000 behind them. We got these things called the LHINs, these healthcare hubs, that previous PC governments have said, we don't even know what these things are doing. as well. We've got these Orange and eHealth fiascos happening. The People's Guarantee says it's going to take an axe to some of those high OPG and Hydro One salaries. You, with your insights into health, the top file, are you going to do the same and go after some of those non-frontline jobs?
Well, I think what we need to do is do a full value for money audit. We've talked about that in the People's Guarantee, and we need to go through each and every budget line to see where the savings can be found. Now, in one of my jobs before I became an MPP, I was a bank auditor. So I want to be Kathleen Wynn's auditor and take half of it. It was difficult for me, it was difficult for my sons, but it was almost like a delayed reaction after the leadership was over that we really came together to grieve as a family. And we've had some time since then. We've been able to move forward, but I think it was really important to have that time to just deal with it personally.
A lot of people here in this room, a lot of people in the conservative movement look to Jim as a mentor, someone to provide advice. What would you ask him now about this race?
I think he would probably shake his head at me. But I know he would be supportive. He would want me to do it because he would realize that it's really important for the entire province that the Progressive Conservative Party has to win the next election, and I want to be part of that solution, and I want to work with the team to make sure that we're successful.
So a lot is different between the 2015 race and this race, and the timeline is very different. 5 weeks, I think it only started a couple days ago and it's going to end in a couple days or something. This is just a lightning round. What's your strategy? How do you win in such a unique format and timeline?
For the leadership, we're working very hard, of course, selling memberships and speaking to people about what we're doing, but the reality is once the leadership is over, on March the 10th, there's about 60 days from then until the election campaign. So I think it's very good that we've got a very strong foundation, we've got a great caucus, we've got wonderful candidates, and I'm very proud of the People's Guarantee. I know a lot of people have put a huge amount of work into that, and they feel that these are strong public policy ideas that we have that we're ready to go. So all of that is in place already, and then it's just going to be up to the leader and the team to travel around the province, speak to as many people as possible in a really short time.
So you're already laser focused on the general election.
Yes, yes, you have to be. You have to think ahead and be ready to go.
How do you think things are going to translate? There'll be momentum, you'll have this leadership,
Yes.
maybe you'll win it. How will you do that, moving so quickly from patient ombudsman to campaigner to leader, maybe premier?
You don't have time to sit around and think about it. You just have to be ready to go. And that's why I really think that experience in this campaign is so important, because I would be able to step right into an election campaign and be able to deal with all of the issues that you need to deal with. I've dealt with 4 election campaigns of my own, and I feel very confident that I could step into this campaign too.
Speaking of positions that you hold and going from patient ombudsman to premier, I looked at the website for the ombudsman and it says Christine Elliott resigned February 1st. Until there is a new person, we're going to keep doing our work or whatever. They didn't mention interim or anything like that. They didn't mention doing a hiring process. Is there a chance that if you're not successful this time around, you will go back to that post?
No. Once you have to resign, and once you've demonstrated the level of involvement that I have in the party, I wouldn't be able to go back to that as a nonpartisan position. So this is it, and this is so important to me that I didn't want to resign, but it was necessary in order to do this work.
I've heard from some people, perhaps in other camps, planting the seeds and so forth. Well, there you were pretty much a liberal appointee pick, running one of these positions. You're making fairly good coin there, and you were kind of part of the swamp of it. How do you respond to that?
Absolutely not. I've always been a proud progressive conservative. In fact, when I left in 2015, I wanted the previous leader to have his own space. He had been selected by the membership as the leader. I thought it was time for me to step aside and look at something else. So when I left, I didn't have a job. And I applied for the job about 3 or 4 months later when the position became available, along with several hundred other people, and I was selected for the job. So it was an open competition.